what I like to do today is ask you a series of questions which will be tracing your journey as a leader, as a person, and your business through the times from the very beginning when you started with your elders in the business to the time which is today. Your journey, your career has seen major ups and major downs. There have been as many troughs as there have been crests. For most mortals, that would be devastating. But somehow you come across every time stronger and better. So help me understand the concept of resilience in you.
I would put this into two phases. The first phase, when I faced, as my friend Geeta Piramal puts it, valley of death. So one is pre-1980s and second is post-1980s. Prior to 1980s, when I faced situation right before I started my career in 1967, 68, when my forefathers started and when I was called back from the 3-year engineering degree course, all business was stopped and nobody will give us credit, nothing. But that time, as a young man of 17 years, I had something to prove to myself that no, despite all these things, probably we can do it. Just based on the learnings in the childhood age, listening to my grandfather while serving him or the guests at home, that honesty is the best policy. If you remain honest, you can go through any ups and downs, you will still survive and things like that. So that helped me at that time, and I went into the market. Despite that we had debt on the family, I still went ahead without any hesitation to the supplier of raw materials that give me raw material, I will not run away. This firm is more than 50 years old. Okay, we are currently in losses, and it may have taken 6, 8 months, 9 months, but then I made a mark in Hisar grain market that whenever they will supply me raw material for pulses processing, they will not come to me asking for money. Because I acquired a reputation that whenever this boy would have money with him, he will come to your shop and give the money. So that credibility I was able to build. Second, I faced a situation just before 1980 when people felt as if I had a big contract for export of rice to Russia. Though many established exporters tried to court me and tell me that give us the contract and you take your profit and then be happy. You sit home, relax, we will do everything and we will give you part of profit. But I said, no, I'd like to do it myself. And obviously they didn't like it, so they tried to create all kind of hurdles, and including the fact that they spread in the market that he has now failed. He will not be able to survive because ships were not going and all kind of things were happening and creditors were sitting and but I went up to a senior most officer of the bank because on their promise of the bank I had even issued the checks one day, and then they said, no, you issue the checks, tomorrow the sanction will come from the head office for your credit and your checks will be honored. But when the checks were in the bank, the creditors were sitting in the bank to make sure that my checks were cleared. So, but I went up to the senior most officer and I banged his table and I said, look, I have dispatched goods worth 200 million rupees and I'm only asking from you 20 million. if you can't give me this, then what is the point? So, and that old man, I don't know whether he took pity on me, or I was 28, 29 that time, or he saw her married, and he immediately instructed, no, honor his checks. And post-80s, I would say that I started practicing Vipassana, which teaches you that basically you have to remain equanimous in all situations. So that helped me, and particularly I learned that the downturn teaches you much more than the success.
So the Essel Group today is a massive conglomerate that does business in a wide variety of industries: news and media, entertainment, sports, packaging, infrastructure, education, lotteries, and so much more. I mean, I'm going to run out of breath just describing the breadth of industries that you're in. Could you just briefly describe to the listener, I mean, what was the nature of the business in the 70s?
See, the businesses started in 1926 by my great-grandfather. And they were basically trading in agriculture commodities, right from pure staple wheat, gram, barley, to cotton, to pulses, to edible oils and things like that. Then they would do traditional banking together with it. They will finance the farmers on one hand, who will bring their produces to their shops. So that was their business, and when my generation, I started taking over, we continued that business.
You said you took over, you joined the business when you were 17?
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when you first started, what was your role when you said you kind of took over? I mean,
We had 3 processing units. Two were dal mills, as we call it. One was oil extraction plant. So when I was called from the school, businesses were closed. So I took permission from my grandfather to start one of the pulses processing units. Because of lack of working capital, we gave an idea to the Food Corporation of India, because those were the days in India was on more of socialistic way of doing business. USSR had a lot of influence, a lot of things were being done by public sector. Food Corporation was dealing in all kind of food grains and pulses. And on the other hand, army was buying a lot of things from the trade. So we said to them, why don't Food Corporation supply to the army directly, and we will upgrade their material in our plant and just charge labor charges to them. So I shifted to that, and then that brought me to Delhi. Then Food Corporation India saw in 1975 bumper crop of grains, shortage of storage capacity. So that, because I was dealing with Food Corporation, Dr. Pingle was one very senior scientist. And so he called us in and said, you create capacity out of plastic and polythene sheets. So we did that. And
here you are, 17 years old. Family asks you to come back to the business. What ambition did you have when you went to your grandfather to say, here's what I want to do? If you can go back to that day, what was the burning desire? What was the ambition you had at that point?
see, I had grown up with my grandfather. I'd seen him like a solid, strong man. My great-grandfather's siblings, they were more than hundreds of people that time, living all over, of course, within a radius of 100 kilometers. And they will all the time will come to him for various kind of helps, advices, and things like that. So his picture in my mind was of a very strong man. And I started idolizing him in a way. And when I was called back from the school, it wasn't to do business, but It was for that I cannot afford your fee and expenses. That's why I was called back. And one day when I was chatting with him, he kind of virtually, I saw tears in his eyes. And of course, he tried to hide it from me, but I saw it. And that made me determined that I would wipe out this from this man's thing.
Wow. Did you tell him that?
Much later age,
Much
yes.
later.
Yes. We
That's-
both, at that time, we both cried.
In this period of your very illustrious career, if you had to pick 2 or 3 key turning points in the late 70s and early 80s, what would you kind of point to, saying that these are the 2 or 3 very important turning points?
Major turning point, first one was the polythene and plastic covers making for food corporation and storage. That was certainly, I would call it a major turning point, though it may not have given me as much profits. But that gave me tremendous sense of pride and confidence. And if I would have known how to do the public relation activity for creating capacity for more than 180 million tons of food grains. And I am talking 1975 when I was just 25 years old.
Wow. When you took this on, did you have any knowledge of the plastics business? And
Nothing whatsoever.
how did you do it?
One was this Dr. Pingley. He was advising, guiding. He saw in me that here is a young fellow who is not hesitant to experiment. And of course, you then took some help from some known people who were earlier in the same trade, but they were doing very small business. And I would say that fear of unknown, or I didn't have fear because I didn't know what is in it for me.
So that's an important thing.
Yeah.
You didn't have the fear of the unknown. Could you tell us a little bit on the origins of Essel Packaging, which, among other things, now is the largest plastic tube making company in the world? Help us understand where it got started and the journey of that business.
See, when we were in plastics or polythene, when we did this storage capacity for the grains, one new experiment was done to laminate low density polythene with high density polythene and to create fumigation covers for the grain. So that introduced me to some kind of lamination, but that experiment failed. So I had already taken on lease this lamination plant for a couple of years. So what to do with that? And then we started laminating low density polythene with paper for packaging industry, for packaging of pharmaceutical products. And then one of the exhibition, which was in Germany called Interpack, and I visited that in 1982. I saw this product which used to be called a laminated tube, combination of metal and plastics mainly for toothpaste. So I felt this is a good product which should be tried and brought back to India. That's how it started with 50 million tubes capacity. And today, I think, though my youngest brother is handling that unit, that company, and he's done a tremendous job of progressing it. I think more than 8 billion tubes, I think close to 8 billion tubes we produce. 35% of the humanity, when they do brush their teeth in the morning, they use Essel-made tubes.
This is a global enterprise that you have visualized and created. But when you started it, what was the nature of business in India? How was it to do business in India? I'm trying to connect your global aspirations with your domestic operations here.
Yeah, it was again a very horrifying experience. Firstly, I had no experience of putting up an in manufacturing unit. Second, was very new to the Mumbai as a commerce capital. Third, your customers base was only four of them: Colgate, Procter & Gamble, Unilever, and Jeffrey Manners, all foreign nationals, multinationals. Now, and you are a 30 years old guy who says, I have brought in this technology from three countries, America, Japan, and Switzerland, and I want to do this. And they all knew that this product is superior than the normal metal lead tube. But they had their own vested interests, clubbed with that time's system in India was still, industries were licensed. I mean, Colgate was licensed to produce X tons of toothpaste every year. So they said, hey, why do I need to change my equipment, which will make more investment? From 20 supplier, why should I go to single supplier? And for 3 years, none of them bought a tube. One of these four contracted 100% capacity, but didn't buy a single. So in 3 years, that company, my company, Essel Packaging, was qualified to be a sick unit. But then some of the profits of rice exports, we kept putting into the company to avoid it to become a sick unit. And then a domestic company was coming up to start a new brand of toothpaste. They started using it, which put pressure on all these big boys. And then there was no looking back.
Talk a little bit about the merging of SL Packaging with Propack. What were the challenges? What were the risks involved? How do you take care of that, if any?
No, Propack owner was a friend and still is a friend. He had his operations in the countries where we were not present. So it was a good combination, good fit. But challenges were only of integration of different nationalities, different people. But we didn't face much challenges in this.
You're in packaging, and then you enter leisure and entertainment. It is not a logical step to go from packaging toothpaste to getting into leisure and entertainment. Can you help us understand how that migration took place?
Neither the grain trading to packaging was any logic. And this is a known fact that we haven't spent much money on the consultants to ask them what next I should do. You know. So once as I told you that Essel Packaging or Essel Propack, when it was profitable and when it was running well, my youngest brother Ashok Goyal was involved with this, and so he fully took over. And I was unemployed, and we had bought a large piece of land in Bombay suburb. And what can be done to that, and what should we do in that property, was the question. And it is a kind of defined as no development zone. And in that, you could build amusement park, you could build few other things. So, amusement park was one thing which had attracted me much earlier when I visited some of these so-called amusement facilities. And so we started working that. And that's where SL World was born.
Can you relate back in that time? What do you think was happening around in the Indian context that you think made SL World the success that it is? I mean, was it the right thing at the right time? And if so, why was it? Why was that the right time to do it? Or did you make it the right time?
I wouldn't call it right thing, right time, but it was something which one felt that Mumbai as a city, you see, it's a it's an island, and people live in this city. They don't have either the roof or the ground. They are hanging in the flats in between, and hardly any greeneries in Mumbai city. So I think it was combination of all the things because of my unemployment, this land being available, and then when amusement park, we thought we did a survey also. The Essel word name was not because of the group's name was Essel, because we designed the 5 phases of this park. We actually did a naming contest in the city, which was participated by more than 30,000 people. And one such name appeared was Essel World. So they described entertainment, sports, and science exhibition land. That's how the abbreviation Essel was done in this context.
What were the principles that you used to put together a team? Because this is a very consumer-oriented business. This is entertainment. It's a different DNA. Help us understand how you put together the team.
What I did was I looked around, and there is every year an exhibition or a annual conference, exhibition cum annual conference called IPA. And before we started working on it, I visited that. And there I was looking around who were the people who could help us to set up such a facility. And we picked up 3-4, talked to all 3-4 of them. We chose Blackpool Pleasure Beach of UK as our consultant and architect, so to speak. And they helped us put together. They also, in fact, trained our initial team and managers.
Can you talk a little bit about the origins of EIL, Essel Infra Projects Limited? Because this company has done projects in over 70 centers in India. Just could you help us understand, because you moved from now doing a consumer-oriented thing to projects business.
This migration has come about mostly if you look at SL Packaging, SL Word, Z Entertainment, or anything. They are all mostly kind of service industry. And the families were growing. We have, amongst 4 brothers, next generations were growing. So I said we should have some business which is kind of more of annuity kind of business, and should have asset base also. If you look at other things, hardly any assets are being not much of too much of a capex kind of a thing. And I think somewhere inside me also there is a bug of national interest, if I may say so, which was telling me always that why we are lacking in infrastructure, or whether it is roads or whether it is anything. So why can't we help also build that? So both of the things, and we experimented with roads first, slowly grew that business. Now we are certainly in many verticals over there. And again, as you've seen, my history of these 40-odd years is to bring first-time things in India. We ventured into 9 new things. Out of that, 4 succeeded, 5 didn't.
1992, you founded ZTV. Now, there have been books written and long stories about in the exchange that you had with Star and what happened and how it came about. What was the circumstances that led you to start ZTV?
This Essel World amusement park, which, as I said earlier, that we had done surveys and plan was made according to that, investment was made according to that. The first year of completion was calendar 1990, January 90 to December 90. And at December 90, the total guest visitors were only 1 million, 1.1 million. Whereas the market estimate was 3+ million. So we said, why people are not coming? So things came out was A, lack of infrastructure, because roads and other things connectivity was poor. 2, these bureaucrats imposed entertainment tax, which was 150%. Third one was that people wanted entertainment, but they wanted it closer to their homes. So all the three things gave birth to Z.
So in that frame of reference, in that state of the industry, you launch ZTV. Going back to those times, what was the brand that you were trying to create then?
See, as I mentioned during the Essel World time, that these people put 150% entertainment tax. There was no logic. I mean, middle class children were coming, families were coming, and you are imposing 150% on that amusement. So I wanted to expose these people. So that's how, and I had that at back of my mind. I wanted to entertain also to people. So I had in mind that ZTV would be having news also, it will have entertainment also.
But there has been a lot of competition. There's proliferation of channels. What makes Z so successful in a market that is so fragmented with so many players trying to do so many things?
One is that we have tried to continue to build the brand in various kind of aspects of the life. So it touches people in every. We want to catch them whatever time we can catch them. So we have a network of almost 40 stations in India at the moment, and in 8 different languages. So that makes it a household thing. Of course, when competition comes, everybody has their own strategy, but we are keeping ZTV, the main brand, as a family viewing network, which is very clean. So that makes it uniquely placed, and though we have for youth different brand like Ant TV and other things. So we are almost commanding about 19% of the eyeballs of India. And beyond that, it is financially so successful because internationally the South Asian diaspora watches it. Plus, for last 5 years, we are going in one by one foreign languages from our own programming. Latest being the German language program or network we launched in Germany.
Speaking to your globalization in this industry, can you talk a little bit about which have been the toughest markets to enter, and what have you kind of learned from it that everyone else can benefit from as you enter new markets?
Toughest is, of course, the so-called father of market economy, United States of America. I've been struggling there for 6 years with the Health and Wellness Network, Z Living, and I've been able to get only in 40 million homes as against 110 million homes. Difficult to get distribution, difficult to penetrate in that market.
How has the news media changed in the time that you've been in the space?
First and foremost, Professor, news media in India, particularly television, has so many stations that you cannot even imagine. And I even can't count them. So that apart, but there is a lot of negativism which has creeped into the news in India. Including ours also, partly. But I'm trying to say to my colleagues, let us listen to our consumer what they want. So, listening to them, we are trying to do the course correction. Because I went myself sitting into the houses of the viewers, what do they think of news, television. And they told us, you're all sold out. Sab bike hue ho aap. But at the same time, they said, you are the only hope also we have. So both very drastic contradictions, but so since then we are correcting it.
Switching gears, you have your own TV show, Dr. Subhash Chandra channel. I mean, can you help us understand the motivation behind it and why has it been so well received?
This is called DSC show. We have a tradition in our family from 90 years, as I'm told, must have been before also, that 10% of the profit you have to give for good causes. 2 years ago, I was sitting with my father in my ancestor home. We were just chatting and he asked me that, are you continuing that tradition? I said, yes. We are doing it. My next generation also is seemingly into it. They will also continue. Just innocuously asked me, what about your experience? I said, experience? वो तो नहीं बांटा तुमने. You didn't share that. I said, yes, वो तो नहीं share किया. वो भी तो, that's also your income. So, that was the trigger, and I started thinking and thinking till one day I was in Europe and I saw some motivational show. So I said, let me try this if it works in India. So it was an experiment. We said we will do it 3 months, and if it doesn't work, which was more likely that it will not work. But somehow people are liking it, and it is benefiting people.
From when have you been thinking about philanthropy and charitable work? Walk us through your journey on giving.
Giving has been in the genes, as I said, that from 90 years the family has been following this tradition of giving 10%. And as a 8-10 years old, I used to sometime total up the books sitting and while learning with the grandfather in the shop. And they had a ledger account of philanthropy. So they knew that 10% of this year's profit we have to give. But you don't know in the beginning of the year, and particularly when you are in a trading business, how much profit or loss you will have. But from day one when you are giving, whether 100 rupees or 1,000 rupees or 10,000 rupees, they kept debited on the other debit side. I have not seen any year when the total of the debit was bigger than the credit. So profits were more than 10% of what you have given throughout the year. So that taught me one thing, that more you give, more profits you will have. So it's a profitable thing to give.
You've had such a long, illustrious career. You've learned so much along the way. If there were 2 or 3 things that you'd like every viewer of this video to walk away with as leadership lessons?
Well, I think this is what I was saying when somebody in the University of East London thought that they would want to give me honorable doctorate for management, which I had not studied. These things were, number one is have faith in yourself and your ability to succeed. Number two is that you should live in the present. I would say is that eat, drink and sleep with the problem what you have.
Thank you very much for your time. It's been thoroughly enjoyable listening to you.
Thank you, Professor.
You're a great person.
Thank you.
Enjoyed it.
Thank you.